We are on day one of the habit of photography. I have been frustrated lately at my lack of completing photography projects. I will pick up my camera from time to time. I don't use it obsessively every day, but I will capture moments in my family life and stuff like that. I'm constantly grabbing my camera and snapping pictures. So that isn't a big problem for me. But the problem is, I never look at my photos. I take them and I don't look at them. And I remember for years and years, I was constantly looking at my pictures and editing and making photo books and everything. And I've just kind of fallen out of the habit lately. And one of the number one problems that my students have when learning photography is they just don't get out there and do it. It's a great idea. They've invested in the technology. They love the sound of it, but they just don't go do it. Now, not all of them, but the ones that struggle. And then there are people who have learned a lot about photography, and it's like, oh, I haven't touched my camera in a few months, or people like me, like, oh, I got all these pictures, I haven't done anything with them, I've got to get something done. And the thing is, it really does come down to habit. So one thing I've been doing lately is teaching college courses on ethics, and that has got me digging into ancient philosophy, medieval philosophy, contemporary philosophy, and learning about ethics. And one of the things I stumbled across was the importance of habit in the life of a human being. Basically, everything that we do is governed by habit. There's nothing that you do, or extremely little that you do, that isn't habitual. And so you've either got good habits or bad habits or non habits, things that you want to do and you just can't seem to do them. If you've ever tried to change the way you eat, like let's say eating healthier, the reason it didn't work is because you have this deeply ingrained habit and way of eating. If you've tried to start some new exercise routine or some new creative project and it didn't stick, it's probably because you just failed to establish the habit. Or maybe because you tried it and you hated it and you never wanted to do it again, which is okay. And that's one of the tricks to habit, is it has to be something enjoyable and something you do repetitively until it creates grooves in your mind that you just naturally fall into. So I realized, and unless I carve out some time in my day, I'm never going to establish the habit. I'm never going to get back into the habit of photography and get some projects done. So I am committing to like 5 minutes a day. That's the bare minimum. Wherever you are at, pick up your camera for 5 minutes a day and practice camera settings or practice your composition. Go take some pictures of flowers, some macro shots or something, or edit your photos or organize your photos. Whatever you got to do, spend 5 minutes a day at least. Now, the trick is it's a very small time investment. It's like, when you're sitting there waiting for dinner or you're waiting for somebody to like show up or a phone call or something and you're just kind of killing time, kill time with your photography and just invest like 5 minutes. Now, hopefully, you commit to investing more than 5 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And then, of course, even though you only committed to 15 minutes, all of a sudden you realize that 45 minutes or an hour and a half has gone by and you're like, you're in a flow state and you're completely engrossed in what you're doing. Hopefully that happens eventually. But what you're going to do is establish the habit of photography over the next few weeks. So you also need to attach it to a project so that you're like working toward a goal. Maybe you need to get all your photos organized and that's your goal. Maybe you need to, my goal, I want to go through a family trip from a year ago, almost a year ago, and I want to hand make a photo book, meaning I'm going to stitch it together. I'm going to print it, print the photos, I'm going to stitch them or bind them together myself. And so here we are. So I'm on my trip and these are some photos that I selected from last year. I've kind of gone through the photos, but not entirely. I just did a quick look through them. I had some really fun times on the trip. This is on the east coast of Canada. This is basically like New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. And I'm just going to go through and basically flag the photos that I really like, and then see what themes emerge as I go along. And then I don't know what the photo book is going to be. It might be 10 photos, it might be 1,000 photos. I have no idea. I don't know if I'm going to try and document the whole trip, or whether I just, I want to find like, oh, maybe it's just going to be sunset photos or sunrise photos or something like that. No idea. No idea at all. But I'm just going to wait for things to emerge and see what happens. I've got tons of photos that I like. And this was a long trip. It was like a couple of weeks on the road, mostly camping, mostly campsites. I was just about to say that I don't even remember this waterfall, which now I remember it, but at first I didn't. And this is really cool. This was in the middle of the day. Like, okay, so we're in, gee, I forget. I think it was July. And it was July or August, but basically we're in the longest days of the year, the brightest days of the year, middle of summer in Canada. And so that is not a good time to get these silky waterfall, slow shutter speed photos, because it's so bright out. It's hard to slow your shutter speed down enough. But I think it was a little bit overcast, and if I recall correctly, it was actually a sunny day, but there were just a few clouds going over. So cloud goes over, and I know that my light was just cut. I don't know. It was cut in half, and then in half again, and then in half again. I don't know what the difference between full sun and overcast is, but also we're like deep in the woods. So sunspots were a problem, but we're deep in the woods. That gets us kind of dark. And then a cloud goes over. That gets us even darker. And now I can slow my shutter speed down. I wonder what it ended up being. Oh, okay. I haven't got my hard drive plugged in, so I can't see the camera settings, but it was probably not much more than a second. I'd be surprised if I made it to 2 seconds on this photo. Incidentally, I ended up buying a new ultra wide angle lens because I shoot with a Fuji mirrorless camera, and I have an adapter that allows me to use my Nikon lenses. So I have a Nikon ultra wide angle zoom lens. It zooms from, on a crop sensor, it zooms from 10 millimeters to 24 millimeters. And it really distorts and warps the photos. And so I bought a relatively cheap manual focus ultra wide angle prime lens. I can't remember. I think it's 12 millimeters. And I bought it to fit it's a Rokinon, and I bought it to fit the Fuji mirrorless. And I didn't use it on this trip. I had what I considered to be my wonky wide angle lens, but I have since used it, and I love the minimal distortion that there is. Man, this was such a beautiful night. And what's cool is, these photos here. So there were actually forest fires raging, nowhere near us, but like all over Canada and the United States. And when I looked at this photo, I thought, like, what a beautiful silhouette. And it looks like the trees are burning. Like, it looks like they're candles. It was so cool. This is a shot I took in the middle of the night from our campsite. I'm walking on the path to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I laid my camera down on the ground and pointed it up at the stars and got this shot of the Milky Way, and with the silhouetted pine trees and stuff, which is really cool. I really want to up my game on the Milky Way shots. I feel like I certainly have not mastered them. And that was one of the reasons in investing in the new lens, is I can actually get a wider aperture, letting in even more light. I feel like my Milky Way photos are not bright enough. I have to do a substantial amount of editing, I think, in order to. They're just nowhere near as impressive as some of the other shots I see, and I'm finding I'm having to shoot like way too high ISO. But I have a new Fuji, I got the new lens, so hopefully I can get some better Milky Way shots this year. This was early morning. This is right near where that waterfall is. And again, ultra wide angle, you can see some distortion with me over here. It's not super obvious because I probably did some corrections already, but it just feels like the scene is kind of tipping, like it's bending, like a rainbow shape on the left and right kind of thing. And and I'm out of focus. I must have moved a little bit. So I set up the self timer and did a slow shutter speed shot, just experimenting. I find that like I'll go on these early morning walks to take photos, and I find that I'm not a huge fan of nature photos, but if there is a person in the shot, then I really like it. Like even the shot here, I do really like this, but I wish that the people in the photo were a little more prominent. I wish that maybe they were even like standing right in around here. I don't know if you can see my cursor moving there. I think I might be able to write on my screen. I'm using a broken screen. I can't get my pen. Anyways, so I do the self-portrait stuff in the morning. Usually I'm facing away from the camera so that you wouldn't know it's me. Like when I look at the photo, I don't see me. Like these are self-portraits here. I loved the construction, and the reason why it's out of focus, this is a JPEG. I've got the raw file. Everything is in focus on the raw file. I was using an effect, but I saw the porta potty as I was leaving this marina. So I'm there for sunrise, and then on my way out, I see this backhoe and porta potty, and I thought this is cool with the sunrise and everything. Doesn't make sense on its own, and I thought if you stick a person in there moving through the scene, then I don't know. Now this is just interesting to me. So, and there was nobody else around. If there were people working, I probably would have snapped a shot of somebody working, and this was cool. I love the red dirt roads in Prince Edward Island, and this is where the pavement met the red dirt road, and to me, this is like just so symbolic of, I don't know, something, but my life and what I love. I feel like I live like on the edge or the border of something. I don't know, the border of chaos and order, of like regular routine mundane life and adventure. And this will somehow, this, if it's not a part of this photo book, this will become a part of something. Okay, I have basically, now I'm going to spare you from this. I'm going to hit pause, and I am going to go through all my photos from the trip very quickly and just keep flagging stuff and see what emerges. And I'll see you on day 2.